Every woman deserves to feel vibrant, safe, loved, and feel her power. The Woman's Vibrancy Code podcast is here for a potent use of your time. We will cover energy, hormones, and libido with episodes that also dive into entrepreneurship, money mindset, feminine power, and much, much more. Introducing Maraya Brown, Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, and entrepreneur.
Whew, this is a good one. So I have with me today Dr. Patricia Petralba. She and I have had fun just starting to build a friendship and getting to know one another. And I'm really leaning into her work specifically in the topic of sleep. Dr. Petralba, I watched one of your Facebook Lives and it was so profound for me going, oh my gosh, just really whittling it down into easy steps. So let me first read her bio so all of you know who she is as a powerhouse. So ever since she was a young girl, Dr. Patricia Petralba has been interested in preventive and curative healing through natural medicine. She's a board-certified family physician. She received her training in family medicine from University of Pittsburgh, and she's a graduate of Integrative Medicine Fellowship from University of Arizona under the direction of Dr. Andrew Weil, and she's still in Arizona. She has a special interest in mind-body medicine, stress reduction, medical acupuncture, women's health, and weight management. She recognizes conventional medicine's culture of segregation, and she strives to bridge the gap between specialized practitioners by combining natural holistic with cutting-edge conventional medicine. And she honors her indigenous roots back in the Philippines by seeking healers and inquiring about traditional medicine. As I'm reading this, I can so relate to, I have my conventional medical training at Yale and then functional medicine, but I've spent so much time studying with traditional healers in West Africa and Central America and Haiti and Hawaii, and to perpetually go back to old indigenous wisdom. So I really appreciate that. And I would love to hear what it was like to have grown up in the Philippines, but that's a different conversation. And also she says, aside from enjoying natural motherhood to her daughter, Kaya, son Aro, is it Aro or Arrow?
Aro. Yeah.
And wife to her loving husband, Jay. She loves spending time in nature, reading, playing with her dog, and traveling. So welcome, Dr. Petralba.
Thank you. So nice to be here. And I'm excited to get started with how we can sleep better. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's start out with, why are we talking about sleep? I hear from women, they're exhausted, they're struggling with brain fog, they can't lose weight. And in my mind, as a clinician, I go right to, all right, how's your sleep? But what about you? When you're interacting with your patients, and particularly women in that perimenopause chapter, like age 35 to 55, what do they come to you with where in the back of your mind, you're going, sleep is one of the top priorities for us to really address here?
Right. Yeah. That's a great question. They come to me like what you were saying, they are having trouble getting sleep. It's so hard to turn off that button. And then the depth of the sleep feels like not deep enough, that they wake up feeling tired. And the length, there's also interruption of the sleep. And they usually end up kind of feeling anxious for the next day. Are they able to perform their to-do list if they don't get enough sleep? That's one scenario. The other scenario is they have so much going on in their waking and conscious life that it's the sleep that gets kind of pushed over, or that it's optional to get 8 hours of sleep.
But let me ask the question again, because I'm not sure I'm getting the answer to what I was looking for. Can you tell me what symptoms, like in my mind, if a woman comes in and she's struggling with libido, I think she's not sleeping and her testosterone isn't being produced, or she's exhausted throughout the day. She's feeling toxic. She's feeling dehydrated. She's can't lose weight.
Right.
Is there anything else that someone can go, oh gosh, I didn't realize that this thing that I'm struggling with actually is related to the fact that I'm sleeping less than 8 hours a night, either because I'm overworking and I'm just not creating the time to sleep, or I have the time, but I lay in bed and I can't. So let's talk about sleep. But first, why are we talking about it? And what symptoms, what things do women experience age 35 to 55 that sleep is part of the picture?
Right. Now I see what you're saying. In their conscious waking life, they feel like they can't focus. Their creativity is so like less. And before their like, to-do list is so easy, fluid. The way they process their to-do list is so organized. The mood tends to feel more anxious and depressed because there's no like exhalation at night. Yeah, libido for sure. Libido, feeling strong, feeling like they are able to do their task fluidly. Weight for sure, weight gain. I mean, studies have shown that more sleep actually burns more calories. Memory.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
So lay like a log, you burn more calories.
Memory, like they can't remember certain things. And just the passion for life, right? Like feeling engaged and feeling inspired and feeling clear-hearted, clear-minded of what it is truly that they desire is just foggy because their brainwaves are just not organized, synchronized with their heart too. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So for those of you listening, maybe you have a crazy life and you're juggling so many things. You're working, you've got children, maybe the hours that you work are all over the place, and you're pushing yourself to stay up later, wake up earlier, just to deal with life and not sleeping enough. Or you're laying in bed and can't fall asleep, wake up often, hot flashes, that 1 to 4 wake up where your mind is racing, but your body's exhausted. We're going to get to that. But what I want you to hear from Dr. Petralba and I is maybe you haven't made the connection that if you're exhausted, if you're feeling anxious, depressed, lack of focus, lack of creativity, decrease in libido, not able to perform, weight gain, can't lose the weight, memory feels off, there's a lack of zest for life, like a veil between you and your passion and the get up and go, we need to talk about sleep. So let's talk about sleep. When you're working with a patient, do you compartmentalize like these 2 categories? And maybe there's other categories, but kind of what I'm hearing is the category of if there's only 24 hours in a day, I don't know where to fit in more time for sleep versus I have the time and my body won't go to sleep. Do you address that in different ways, or can we talk about it all kind of in one kind of general path?
That's a good question. I think it's individualized. I can deconstruct it that way, like 24 hours versus someone who feels that there is. But the underlying theme that I see is, and I love to use this word, is rhythm.
Rhythm.
Yeah. Like, is there rhythm in their day versus just being linear? That is the first thing that I try to listen to. And rhythms are how we are designed. The rhythm of our brainwaves, the rhythm of our heartbeat, the rhythm of our digestion, the rhythm of our menstruation, and then the rhythm of sleep. And so I piece all that together. Is there, like webs, ebbs and flows, or is it more like one-way street?
I love it. Okay. So let's say a woman's not sleeping enough.
Right.
And you're going to help her address the rhythms through the day, the rhythms in eating and digestion and thinking and resting and, the daytime rhythms to address throughout a 28-day cycle. What are some things that you recommend a woman start with?
So first, being mindful of how is the flow of their conscious life, because that is a big cue on how you can have the best sleep ever. So from, again, your thoughts, are they racing or are they slow? Your beat of your heart, is it racing or is it a perfect resting heart rate when you need to rest? And the heart space is like the best tool. I say the heart is our beat, it's our drum. And so if you want to like have a certain pace in your life, tune into your heart. How is the beat of your life going? No?
Makes me take a nice
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
breath.
And so let that be the drum of your being.
Okay. So let's say a woman, even just right now, she's listening and she checks in and her mind is racing all day long and her heartbeat is fast and probably her respiratory rate is also fast and shallow.
Yes.
What does she do with that?
Like I said, I would say reverse engineer on when exactly are those times of the high racing thoughts, high respiratory rate, and high heartbeat that makes them feel like they need to move more or do more, because that's kind of the saber tooth, the danger, and you're doing the fight flight response. So reverse engineer what times of the days are those happening, and then preemptively, as you go along your week, put that pocket of pause with your heart before those times actually happen.
Yeah.
And then you can slow down the speed even before it races up.
I love it. I think about a 24-hour cortisol curve. So we know we can look quantifiably at your cortisol is naturally going to go up in that first hour of waking and then also a little bit in the afternoon, right?
Right.
And so those are probably where I go as the two most important times.
Right.
For a woman just to get quiet, check in and slow down her breathing, consciously slow down her thoughts. Anything else that a woman can do to address the rhythm, either in the day or in the month? You know, I love talking about a 28-day cycle and who she is during her bleeding time versus her ovulatory time. And if you're not bleeding, I think of it as 4 seasons. But what about like the broader rhythm and any other suggestions for a daily rhythm too that you would add?
Yeah. So first I answer that in the daily rhythm. So we're talking about how can they train their nervous system to be comfortable in slowing down, right? So that when they get to that sleeping phase of their life, of our lives, our nervous system feels safe to slow down.
Yeah.
Because that's what's happened at night. Like they can't turn it off because they're like this spinning wheel that doesn't know how to stop because this is their only way of being.
Yeah.
And so in your conscious life, in your waking life, your nervous system needs to know how to pause and to break even in conscious life. Yeah. And the formula that I've found that is so helpful, even for, very busy moms, busy executive women, that kind of like go, 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 is breaking down their productivity to the 90-15-minute rule.
90-15, is that what you said?
Yeah, 90-15-minute rule. So 90 minutes of doing, thinking, checking the to-do list, and then 15 minutes of breaking away. 15 minutes of feeling slowing down, of feeling that oxytocin, yummy, orgasmic hormones versus the dopaminergic check, check, check. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. And that's great,
it feels
right?
so good. It's so addictive.
Yeah, it's so good. And we're so addicted to that doing. Yeah. Kind of that masculine doing energy. And so you want to still have space, even for 15 minutes is enough so that your brain, your heart will be still used to and feel safe to slow down as you go to sleep.
Yeah. For those that are going, what is dopamine? What's oxytocin? I think of dopamine as it's the get it done hormone. Yeah, it's like when you write your to-do list and you check something off, it feels so good.
Right.
But it's also the hormone of addiction, any addiction. It creates productivity in a society, but we also have to make sure that we check it at the door and it's not overproducing. And then oxytocin, that hormone of ecstasy and love and bonding and connection, it's surges when we give birth. It surges when we breastfeed. It surges when we have an orgasm. Like it creates love and bonding.
Right.
And so on one hand, as I was listening to you, I had this thought of, right, you can see someone doing a long 10-mile run, but they get into their rhythm. Like they're still moving fast, but it gets into this rhythm where the mind quiets down. And so for those ambitious women that go all day, it's not about you need to be less productive. But what I'm hearing is to allow the nervous system to quiet down in the productivity so that we can downregulate that nervous system and actually feel safe.
Yes.
So when it is time to slow down and sleep, the nervous system is familiar with it and knows how.
Right.
But then I'm also hearing kind of like this sprint, stop, like 90 minutes productive. Give yourself the 15 minutes to rest, assimilate, digest, get quiet. And so you're actually suggesting that women plan out their day and time block, but schedule in 90 minutes go, 15 minutes quiet, 90 minutes go, 15 minutes. So it's not so much the run the marathon 10 miles.
Right. It's being a sprinter and having also that off season, right? Like kind of like athletes, they go competition season and then off season. So in our day of one day, we also need that off season. And it doesn't need to be completely pausing, just things that stimulates, again, that yummy, expansive oxytocin type of hormones. It can be art, it can be even just light touch massage. It doesn't need to be completely meditative, just a different part of you.
Yeah. The examples that I think of that I do, I'm here in my office and the other half of it is my altar space. So I'll go sit at the altar, put on some meditative music and just get quiet. Or I'll take a break and do a walk, like a gentle walk around the block and leave my phone at home. I'll go downstairs and just have a moment to connect with my kids and sit down and have a snack and drink something yummy or take a bite of dark chocolate if I have it here. Make love with my husband in the middle of the day, like those pauses.
Yes.
And then what about nutrition and supplementation? Do you have a certain rhythm that's your favorite in regard to eating and hydrating throughout the day to set a woman up for success at night?
Right. Great question. So because our digestion, right, is still a rhythm and it will set us up for success for a deep sleep or not. Typically, you want your gut to be empty before you sleep, meaning you've digested enough that your gut is also sleeping versus working at night. So generally, full digestion phase will be like 4 hours before sleep.
I love it. That's what I say too. And we're on the same page.
Yes. So 4 hours. Water, that's tricky. Depending on where they are with their pelvic floor muscles, hydrate enough that you can empty your bladder and still get it in your vascular system, that you are hydrated and that it won't interrupt your sleep cycle. So maybe like 2 hours before sleep is enough for you to eliminate any excess urine so that it won't interrupt your sleep.
Yeah, I love it. I'm in total agreement. So 4 hours before bed, last caloric intake. And we need to make sure that we're hydrating heavy throughout the day, not loading it at night, because if your bladder's full, and that can either cause a hot flash or it can be the thing that's waking you. It can also stimulate that saber-tooth fight, flight, or freeze when the bladder's full.
Right.
And so even like adding some chia seeds into your water in the evening hours, or some ground flax into your water in the evening hours, because that's going to help maintain long-term hydration.
May I just add something to that? You were kind of talking about noises, right? Noises to eliminate before sleep. We were talking about body noise with digestion and elimination. I want to also just highlight quickly the noise of environment. Our sleep space should only include 2 S's, or is meant for only 2 S's.
Yes.
And I hope everyone hears this loud and clear. The first S is for sleep. Okay? That's what we're talking about today. The second is sex.
I was hoping you were going to say sex.
Those are the only S's that should come into our sanctuary. And the one S that invades our rhythm is screen.
Yes.
So for people who are sleeping with their phones beside them or their television inside their room, if you're serious about sleep, get them out.
Yes. And sometimes the woman is serious about sleep, but their husbands are not open to letting go of the TV in the room, which is a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But okay, so it sounds like I love, because you're kind of leading me into my next question, which was specific to sleep routines. So let's talk about the 4 hours before it's time to actually fall asleep, the 2 hours before it's time to sleep. I'm hearing reduce too much hydration, stop caloric intake within 4 hours of going to bed. There's only 2 S's for the bedroom, that's sleep and sex. Remove the screens. Do you actually turn off your Wi-Fi in your house at night?
Yeah, so we have this like plug that has a timer when it turns off. I love that you're talking about electromagnetic frequencies because these Wi-Fi, these unseen energies does interrupt with our brain chemistry and our brain waves. No, it just interrupts how deep sleep we can get.
Yep.
And so I highly recommend 10 p.m. onwards, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. turn off your Wi-Fi. It's just noise, essentially. That's electromagnetic noise.
Yep. And so for some of you go, oh, but it's a movie at night that helps me wind down, or I like to read at night and I have my Kindle, or and what I'm hearing is, well, pick up an actual paper book and read. Or rather than vegging out and consuming Netflix and TV and the news and whatever it is, can you actually journal? Can you actually connect with your partner or your husband if you have one?
Right. It may feel like you are decompressing with Netflix and scrolling through social media, but from a brainwave standpoint, it's harder to get into that very slow and restorative brainwaves when you're bombarding yourself with stimulus, especially that blue screen. That blue screen interrupts with a lot of the chemistry that are nerdy terms. But it's that blue light that depletes your adrenal glands, and then you wake up tired because that screen makes you think it's still broad daylight. And so from a survival standpoint, your body thinks you still need to be out there hunting instead of like, we are in the cave, it's safe, we've gathered our food, and it's time for that sweet, sweet sleep.
Yes. I'm so on page with this. And the other night I watched Strip Down, Rise Up. It's a Netflix movie. Oh my gosh. It was like so good. And I watched it at night before bed.
Yeah.
And I felt it the next day. I woke up feeling groggy. I had brain fog. I was trying to be in a creative space and I was watching my eyes feel tired. I got the same number of hours of sleep. I still made love with my husband afterwards, hoping that it would help. It was like, no, I know better. This is just not the time to have those blue light frequencies into my eyes. And I know what it does to my brainwaves. I've heard your story a little bit around sleep. I realize we didn't start with that, and it feels like it's an important piece.
Yes.
Would you just share your story of medical school and when the sleep got as bad as it did and kind of why you're so passionate about this?
Right. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Honestly, it was my sleep quality why I chose my specialty over. I was heavily recruited like in OBGYN, emergency room, and I'm like, I cannot do that because even though I was very interested in working in the surgical realm, I knew how much I became irritable. My mood was just like so terrible. My empathy muscles were so atrophied and slim. I could not feel compassion because of my lack of sleep. And I gained at least 25 pounds because of lack of sleep. And I was not acing my school because of, I thought I could learn more if I woke up more and finish all the readings. And when I finally really shifted my perception of, okay, let's experiment. This is what the studies are showing. And it was boards time. Sleep was the breakthrough. Sleep was where I pressed the save button, the knowledge to learning to long-term to wisdom.
Yes.
Like all the experiences are now integrated into my brain and lesson learned, like lesson learned. And a lot of women deal with this. Like they know they need to slow down to speed up. They know about, maybe some of who's listening, they already know about the divine feminine, of the lean energy, of the pull energy versus the push. And yet they're still like, but I need to do this. I need to work for the outcome, for the breakthrough, for, whatever they want to manifest. And what I want everyone to hear is that we hire all these like nutritional coach, wealth coach, and, business coach, because we want to have a breakthrough in whatever we want to manifest. But the breakthrough really is in our sleep, because that's when integration happens. That's when the knowledge is not just, I know about the divine feminine. It's now like, I learned it already. It is now me.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if that's landing with you, Maraya.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so practical for those listening.
Yes.
8 to 9 hours a day, non-negotiable.
Right.
8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, I should say, non-negotiable. And what I heard you say that we didn't highlight at the beginning when we were talking about all the symptoms and why, is the irritability and the empathy and the compassion. Like that is a huge piece, particularly for these women in their 40s and early 50s, where they're going, holy macaroni, my irritability skyrocketed, right? I all of a sudden am the vipers coming out and I'm biting my husband's head off. And I feel like I'm just like want to climb out of my own skin. And I'm going, who am I in the world? And what do I want to do? And that's the time to lean into what I heard you say, the save button.
Right.
And that save button is when our body gets the time to rest, digest, assimilate. I tell my kids, it's when you grow bigger and stronger and smarter, the sleep.
Yes.
And so thank you for sharing. Okay. So for some other tips for the evening hours, we've got the S's, we've got the stop the caloric intake, watch the hydration, focus on the rhythm of slowing down our nervous system. What else can a woman do if she's going, yes, and I need some solutions here? Like I'm at my wit's end. I know that I'm not sleeping. Many of them have Aura rings and they can look at actual statistics, numbers that they might be laying in bed, but maybe they're a log or they're laying there not sleeping. What are some other things that women can do to improve their sleep so that they have more brain clarity, less irritability, they're getting the weight that they want, they have the energy and the focus and the stamina and all of that?
Right. Great question. All kind of really the remedies that can last and that are effective. I want to start with what I recommend against is a lot of my clients and patients want a pharmaceutical hypnotic, things like
Ambien, I'm guessing.
Ambien, lorazepam, diazepam, things that will knock them out easy, right? And I believe in compassion remedies. I believe in pharmaceutical as being compassionate. If you're like just at the edge, sure. But I want to highlight that it actually doesn't make you go to sleep. You just forget that you were waking up.
Fascinating.
That's what studies have been showing. So
sedation is not sleep.
Yes.
So sedation is not, you might be a log with your Ambien or your lorazepam, your Xanax, even the alcohol in the evening to take the edge off. It's my friends, it's sedation.
Right.
And so what is the difference between sedation and sleep?
So one is you get that deep REM sleep.
If you're sleeping, not in sedation.
If you're sleeping, not in sedation, going to that, like the integration, the save button, the repair, the restoration, where from a muscle standpoint, from a hormone standpoint, you are reorganizing and repairing. Yeah.
Yes.
Effective things is melatonin for sure. A lot of people are aware of melatonin, but what I love about melatonin is it, especially for women, it also decreases your carcinogenic risk for lack of sleep.
For those that don't know what that means, what she's saying is it reduces your risk of cancer.
Yes.
So melatonin as something to add, make sure if you're going to do melatonin that you turn the lights out and you put the curtains closed, right? Especially in the summertime or for those that are in Alaska,
Mm-mm.
Northern hemisphere, you've got to make sure the lights are out. You do your melatonin right before you go to bed. And what I'm hearing is that's deep sleep, not sedation. And I didn't know that it decreases your long-term risk of cancer. Sweet.
Right. Especially breast cancer.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Breast cancer. Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And then valerian. So valerian is a root. It's very stinky,
I was just going to say it smells so bad.
but you can get it in capsules. But it's also a very mild yet potent sleep tonic.
Yeah.
And then the third is hops. So it's
Yep.
also like found in beer without like the alteration, but hops is also a good one. But bear in mind, these things are external, right? Things that we take outside of ourselves. And it can still be a form of band-aid or like enabling what in your conscious life that is not serving your sleep. So use them to help you, but having in mind of root cause, like what is the root cause? Don't just like put a band-aid on it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I listened to one of your lives and you used the acronym MOUNTAIN.
Right. Yeah.
Do you remember what that is? That was really swift and compelling.
Right. So mountain sleep. So it's an acronym to go through before your sleep. One is movement, slowing down your movement, even literally washing the dishes, putting away whatever, like slow down the pace.
Mm-hmm.
Let your body be your guide. Even the way you talk, just setting the tone already. And then T, touch.
Touch, yep.
Touch. So touch, so kind of bombarding your skin because the skin has fibers that can bombard your brain into pleasure mode. So the light touch massage, you can lightly touch yourself to bombard any signal. So you're like distracting. So this is the good distraction. You're distracting from the to-do list, light touch massage. And then the S is the screen away, take out the screen and
add in the sex.
Yeah.
So if you take anything away from this, more orgasms, the better, and particularly maybe at night.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that you like? Obviously, I've heard keeping the temperature low, like around 65 degrees. Some people use weighted blankets. Some people do eye covers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on those sleep remedies?
Yeah, so the sleep cover is so good because you eliminate any stimulation from the light that will really help your hormones feel rested the next day, wake up refreshed. The temperature, you want it around 18 degrees or how much is that in Fahrenheit?
I think it's around 65 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, 65. So you want it cool because the coolness will allow your body to really slow down. So think ice, right? Like the ice has no movement. So you also want your body to have slower pace using temperature.
Awesome. I'm aware of time and I want to make sure that there's an opportunity for you to actually share what it is that you do and how women can lean into you and potentially work with you. But I think the other piece is just, I feel like in the midst of our conversation, we've had a rhythm of the why and the bigger long-term reasoning and then breaking it down to specific recommendations. If we go back to the long-term game, can you speak to, like, you talk about the save button and what that does? You mentioned cancer prevention. You mentioned clarity of thought and productivity. If a woman can, I think often women are just spinning. It's like we're just putting out the fire that's in front of us. And it's in survival space. And if instead a woman can really like take a pause and listen to what we're saying, that actually the slow down to speed up is a real thing.
Right.
To speed up the belonging, the love, the orgasms, the clarity of thought, the libido, the attraction of abundance and money and friendships and all of that. Can you speak to what you see and believe around the long-term impact when a woman actually starts getting sleep?
So long-term impact is visualize your golden years of clarity, And even now, not even in the future, but clarity, focus, and great memory, right? Versus Alzheimer's. So the long-term game is that you are still present and intact and enjoying your conscious life when you sleep. Because with sleep, you prevent Alzheimer's. With sleep, you're still kind of building your brain cells. It's called, this very nerdy term, neuroplasticity. You're preventing that memory loss. So imagine engaging with your family, engaging with yourself, like you are not confused. You know exactly who you are and appreciate life. Again, versus Alzheimer's. So the long term is that you are clear, focused, fully present.
I love it. So powerful. So to kind of recap, we have this rhythm throughout the day so that we can quiet down the saber-toothed tiger, help the nervous system relearn how to feel safe in slower activity. This idea of 90-minute sprint, 15-minute rest, 90-minute dopamine, go, 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 do, 15-minute oxytocin pleasure.
Right.
And the beauty of that is particularly for the women that are in like that, the throes of perimenopause. Like I really think of it as like 42 to 55, where all of a sudden they're having that 1 to 4 a.m. wake up where their mind is buzzing and their body's exhausted and they can't sleep. What's happening there is it's your nervous system, but it's your adrenals. And so if you really heed Dr. Petralba's words and focus on this rhythm and the slowing down and ways to really address the 24-hour period, the adrenals get to go, I'm safe.
Right.
And when the adrenals feel safe, now that adrenal wake up goes away. And I imagine it's also the liver, which is a whole nother conversation. We could talk forever. Okay. Would you talk a little bit around what it is that you do for a woman who wants to lean in and go, oh my gosh, this was phenomenal. How do I get in contact with you? Obviously the show notes and the description will have her links and that kind of thing. But what does it look like to work with you?
Yes. Thanks for asking. So 2 ways to work with me is as a patient. I have my medical practice in Tucson. So for those based in Southwest, come see me at Thrive Life Center. And I'm also offering a one-on-one mentorship program where we relearn how to revive and thrive, overcome burnout, and finally feel successful and balanced mind, body, spirit.
I have family in Tucson. I'm like, oh, my mother-in-law and stepmom are there. I'm going to have to let them know about you.
Yeah.
And anything else that you want to add for the women who are leaning in? Here's the thing. For all of you listening, we've talked about a lot. Just choose one key takeaway that goes, that's something I can grapple with and really put into action. For those listening, for Dr. Petralba, anything else that you want to add that feels unsaid or important to say for those that are listening?
I will say that be kind to yourself. Sleep it can be challenging. So lean on and listen to your inner voice so that you can surrender at night. So when you have a soft and compassionate self-talk, it's also easier to surrender. Yeah. And if you need more support in getting your best sleep, I'm here.
Yeah. Surrender. It's powerful. And I imagine the more surrender in the day, you spoke to the feminine pole, the how much time women spend in their feminine push.
Right.
Versus dropping into our surrender and allowing the feminine pull and the feminine creativity and the feminine receiving.
Yes.
That during our deep REM sleep, that's created.
Yes.
And the more that we can cultivate it during our waking hours, it's creating so much more. And I believe women hold a society up. But then it's also helping our sleep. So thank you so much. Obviously, I believe that we live in a universe that's abundant. Our work is very similar with women, and whoever's listening, they lean into different energies and they lean into the words that we use and how we do what we do. And so I hope that if you're listening and you're leaning into Dr. Petralba's style, I'm imagining the one-on-one work is all online. So that's for women anywhere.
Right. Anywhere in the world.
And, just thank you for leaning in. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for listening to the Women's Vibrancy Code podcast. I'm thrilled to be able to bring phenomenal solutions like this to women around the world that I know you're longing for, and it's something that you're struggling with. And Dr. Petralba, I'm also just looking forward to more time together. And I know that it's a growing, burgeoning, blossoming friendship, and we'll see what it looks like down the road. So thank you for your time.
With pleasure. Thank you for having me, Maraya.
Yeah, of course. Lovely to have you. And with that, we shall ciao ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Woman's Vibrancy Code. Connect with us and take the first step to transforming your energy, hormones, and libido at thewomansvibrancycode.com. Cheers to your zest and vitality. Make sure to follow for weekly power-packed value.